He thought we were gifted with something that had nothing to do with our parents or money or education or gender or anything. That each of us, like our soul, if we had one, had something that connected to purpose. Now, I call them scoops because I like ice cream. And I think each person has three, especially those people who do want to have the responsibility of being a leader. So you have to think about, what is it that you can rely on yourself for and other people can rely on you for without telling anybody. It's just part of who you are. So an assignment, it takes a couple of weeks because usually I tell my puppies in the back of their notebook to start writing down what it is that they think that they've been gifted with, because people have a hard time thinking of it, because usually they say something that has something to do with how they've been raised. This has nothing to do with how you've been raised. And I tell people to think about what their scoops are. They have to go back to childhood. And like in our culture, Catholic, age of reason was about second grade. When you're separated from your parents and you know the difference between right and wrong, that's when you start to discover what can you rely on yourself for and then what other people can. So that's the whole basis of scoops that I do think people should think about if they want to be a leader. People have three things that naturally are gifted to them, not, and their strength, their the confidence, they're the things that make them unique and magnificent. And this goes back to, you know, as a parent, you think, oh my goodness, oh, I'm creating this human being that's going to be part me and part, you know, Ren, husband, father, and everything like that. And you realize really, really soon, you're just a machine that's producing another soul and another human being to do something that has their own scoops, that has a purpose, that it's a function that we're providing rather than, oh, just like me. It's if we have a soul, and this is Socrates, if we have one, that each of us is given something. To be a leader, you have to understand what is something you can depend on, because you don't want to be arrogant. You want to take insecurity, you want to turn that into humility, okay, to be able to admit, and then the confidence that you need to have the freedom to be able to call the shots. That starts building, because you build it for as long as you're doing it, on your scoops. So you want to build who you are and get better on who you really are. So my three scoops are nosy. I am nosy. I want to know everything, how everything works. I do think I'm the boss of the world. And I'm fortunate enough, I think I am heliotropic. I look to light, not to dark. It's not optimism. It's not being happy. I, by nature, drive light, and I can't help it. This is going back to when you were a child, and there were things that you did that you still do, that are something, and they're on the positive side, right? So resilience, or there's something you never give up, that you keep trying, or some people are always, you know, trying to find peace. You know, they see someone arguing with somebody else and they always get in the middle. It's just something that you've done since you were knee-high to a grasshopper. And it takes people about 2 weeks to come up with it. And after doing it for such a long time, whatever your list is, I will argue with you about some things are things you've learned to do. Yay, learn, yay, that's great. But other things, you can tell by the way someone talks about it and their experience that it's a scoop. It ties back to Socrates and purpose. For those of us that lead and have the responsibility of it, aside from always learning and always staying a student, you have to know what you're building on top of too. And it has to be authentic, not meaning I have to be the way I am, but you want to build on strength. Scoops are your strengths that you have, if Socrates is right, without being influenced by anybody else. Everybody has something. And if you choose to be a leader, you have to know what they are. You have to understand that about yourself. And lots of times leaders have imposter syndrome, especially founders. And I identify with that. And to just stop, it's not arrogant, it's not overly confident, but to think about what it is that you are good at is just as important as what you need to continuously grow and try and learn and all that kind of stuff.